So the inauguration just happened, and do you guys think that they intentionally tried to make it look like the Hunger Games, or was that just like a happy accident?
It was weird. I thought that I could, when I saw the like that footage that's being shared of all the soldiers like marching through at that kind of angle, all I can hear is like the stormtrooper march in my head when I see that. But I guess it just the aesthetic fits more with Hunger Games, but the imagery is pretty stormtrooper-esque.
No, because Lady Gaga
flags and shit.
Yeah.
Like, all the flags and shit. It looks so much like Nazi Germany to me.
Like Lady Gaga really came out wearing like a fucking the odds be forever in your favor kind of outfit.
Yeah, she came out pretending to be the Mockingjay or
the bird on the chest or whatever. But it's like they got the signaling messed up because the Mockingjay is supposed to be a symbol of like revolution, but then the lady who she looks like is one of the main sort of mouthpieces of like the authoritarian like regime. I don't know. Liberals tend to think in YA terms anyway. Like, you know,
yeah,
so
and they don't understand the stories that they're talking about.
Don't.
Like they're
just like
watch their videos analyzing their own art. Like they don't know what the fuck they're looking.
They're just
at.
like, oh, the fascism in the Hunger Games, that looks fucking cool. That's the society that we want to live in.
Oh my god, you see their eyelashes? Fuck, that shit is cool.
On
man.
fleek, on fleek. Totally on fleek.
Well, it's kind of like the bottom half was, you know, something else, wasn't it? It was like she was being some sort of fruit or plum or like Willy Wonka or something, and then the top half was sort of Game of Thronesy or whatever. I don't know.
No, it looked like, you know, that scene where Violet Beauregard like fucking expands. That's exactly
Well,
what
that's
it
appropriate because they're doing Wonka Begins soon.
No, but that's the theme of the Hunger Games and the theme of Willy Wonka is this sort of war of all against all, where children are selected to fight against each other in order to secure, you know, fame and public acclaim and all of that shit. So
we've come
I guess
a long way since picking the children to tour the factory and figure out which one's the successor. Now they kill each other.
Now they just kill each other. So yeah. Welcome to the future, guys. Are you excited? Are you happy that we finally got the fash, the orange man, out of the fucking White House? Like the pictures from the Capitol were fucking horrific. Like Lady Gaga like posing with like fucking you know, DC like military and shit, and they're like marching across. Like, how could anyone look at that and be like, yeah, we defeated the fash comrades? Like,
it looks like fascism, and like it looks like they're taking this like the Germany knew the value of Nazi Germany, not regular Germany. I'm sure regular Germany knows the value of celebrity, but Nazi Germany really knew the value of celebrity, and all of the people that they sort of were able to create a fame cult within in Nazi Germany, they did all this same shit. Like you can see like all of these, there's like glamorous women who would take pictures with the fucking Nazi military and shit. Like it looks the same. It astounds me. People are like, let's work with these people to beat the fash.
That's the thing, you know, in order to beat the fash, comrade, you have to become one, which I think is the whole sort of ethos behind everything that we're seeing. It's sort of a psychological projection. You know, those guys over there are doing the thing that I wish that I could do. I want to wear the sexy Hugo Boss outfit and I want to fucking march around and like be bays.
I was just gutted we didn't see like a ballsy last move from Trump to like, you know, just something fun. I guess he like, you know, pardoned all his mates and like anyone that was going to help him in any kind of proceedings he's got after this. But like, it would have been fun if he had have, pardoned Joe Exotic. I would have liked to have seen that.
I mean, he pardoned Lil Wayne and like a bunch of rappers and shit. Like, I would have loved to see him pardon the fucking Tiger King and stick it to that fucking bitch ass Carol Baskin. Like, that's the real fucking enemy that I want to see embarrassed and fall. Like, that's the person whose tears that I want to drink.
I don't know.
And yeah,
Donald Trump became like a huge pussy over the last 3 weeks.
It's because they got him. They fucking got him. That's the reason why they fucking got him. And yeah,
he tried to retain his shit by being like, have a nice life, everybody, and walking away to YMCA. But it's like, he didn't even dance. So it's like, come on, man.
I was looking forward to him doing like a little shuffle, but it never happened.
No.
But anyway, welcome to Low Society, comrades. Thanks for funding. Sorry, I'll do that again.
Like a fucking like bumpkin there.
I'll say that again.
Comrades.
I was trying to do a southern accent and it fucking failed. I was trying to do a southern accent and it
Welcome
totally
to Low
fucking summoned.
Society, comrades. It's not a knife.
Why don't you do the intro in an Australian accent, Peter?
Welcome to Low Society, mates. I'm Peter. Over here we got Angie Speaks and Jake the Snake, of course. We're going to traverse the outback today in a Jeep.
Making podcasts, triggering libs, and fighting around the world.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're here to do. We are the Russell Crowe. We're the Russell Crowe of podcasts. And yeah, we're here to make podcasts trigger libs and fight around the world. So
yeah, and we need your support, folks.
We do.
So tell your friends about Low Society.
Do it.
You don't need to use any websites to do that. You can just talk to them. But if you like websites and really supporting us, you could go to patreon.com/lowsocietypod.
We also have a new parasocial tier as well, which we're really excited about. We've got quite a few responses from people already. So if you're interested in supporting us in our endeavor to get a new microphone as well, because me and Jake are sharing at the moment, as you can see, become a parasocial Patreon or just a Patreon, whatever the fuck you want to do. Get access to bonus episodes. And we will also be reading questions from our parasocial Patreons at the end of the episode.
You can go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. None of that 4-star bullshit. And follow us on Spotify as well as Twitter at Low Society Pod. Also go to lowsociety.net. Get your vitamins and your nutrients. And yeah.
Also, follow us on YouTube. We've launched our video format now. We're going to try and do the video format from now on as well. So if you guys want to see our beautiful faces, I put on this like wonderful, like exotic, I look like I should be reading tarot on like Venice Beach or something, or have a basket of fruit on my head. So that's like the whole vibe I'm going for. But yeah,
don't make me sing California Girls again.
Don't do it. I thought you were going to insult me or something. It's fine. If you want to see our beautiful faces, then you check out our YouTube channel as well for live video format.
So there was this big thing that happened a couple of days ago. I don't know if you heard about it. The inauguration of President Joe Biden. Everything just suddenly got better. Everything's, we recognize like all of the hardship of the last 4 years and none of the hardship of the previous, 200 some odd years. But the last 4 years was really bad, right?
So I thought that a good little fun thing to talk about with this would be to talk about the most ridiculously cringe lib thing you've seen in the media around the inauguration. For me, it was definitely the coverage of the most iconic fist bump of all time between obviously Obama and Judge Harris. So that was kind of funny and cringe. What was the most cringe thing or like headline that you guys have picked up on over the last?
All of the weird like sexual stuff as well, like people talking about like, oh, pussies are wet now. They've been dry. For
the
last,
SNL writer is saying, if you listen closely, you can hear the sound of pussies getting wet. Now and she deleted that tweet just to be like clear. She realized an hour after she tweeted it that was a big mistake because everybody was like, "What the fuck is wrong?"
They all want to be in like a polyamorous relationship with like Joe Biden.
Polycule with Joe and Dr. Jill.
Yeah, and Dr. Jill. That's what they want. But it's like if you're trying to be a third,
Kamala's just like, I don't know.
If it's like if you want to be a third, like at least have a little bit more self-respect than that. All of their weird psychosexual projection onto these like decrepit political figures has been
Did
pretty.
You see
like,
the one like really stoked that Joe and Dr. Jill share a bed because the Trumps didn't? And like I guess good people who love each other share beds.
No, but here's the thing: we've all seen the videos of Joe pretending to be like virile and agile and stuff. Like, that if he wants to engage in a sexual act, it probably takes about 5 Viagras and he has to take the entire afternoon off in order to fucking calm dust at the end of the day. So I don't know where all of this like sort of charge of sexual virility is coming from.
I don't either.
it's out of no other fact that Melania doesn't want to sleep in a sea of like double cheeseburger wrappers or whatever the fuck. Because Donny T's just there late at night watching Fox,
He's just
cramming in fast food,
Fox,
just like getting angry and like raging
biting
out.
his fingers.
You guys are fat shaming Donald Trump, and I think it's incredibly problematic of you to malign the very first body positive president. And I think that you should have some respect for that, Jake.
Smiling in front of that sea of fucking McDoubles.
Well, he's obviously a pretty greasy guy, and even with all the makeup, he doesn't look amazing. But I would think that all the fast food and constant Fox News would put me off more than just having to sleep next to someone for, because you know what the deal is there with Melania and Donald. There's no, hidden transaction. You know what that that deal is. It's not like, I don't think it's a mystery that she's not with him for love, right?
But even then, anyway, politics are purely libidinal these days, which is why everyone's like sort of psychosexually projecting libidinal energy on these like figures. And I guess Donald Trump figured out that politics is libidinal before the fucking liberals did, which is why they're trying to force sexuality on something that really has no libidinal power. Like Trump knew to appeal to people's base instincts and more base urges, whereas this is just sort of forced fun, Nobody's getting wet for fucking, or nobody's really feeling.
I hope not.
Nobody's
really
feeling any. No one's feeling any sort of libidinal sort of excitement about the Biden presidency or Biden as a political figure. It's really tepid and flaccid. And even the people who did vote for him, they're not this sort of excited base or constituency. Whereas with Trump, you had a very excited base and constituency of people who were sort of libidinally driven to vote for him. So yeah, all the psychosexual posturing that they're doing, like I said, forced fun, boring.
Well, it's also, you can see in the results, it's been a day and he's done however many executive orders. And as much as signing up to the Paris Climate Agreement again or whatever is like, well done for doing the bare absolute minimum. That's like the minimum fucking requirement of you like looking like you're even attempting to like tackle the problem. But across like the 10 or however many executive orders he's done, none of them are about a stimulus for the people that have only had like $1,200 in a year of a complete lockdown and pandemic. I mean, that would it would seem like that would be number one on the list of things you'd want to kind of address. But there are a lot of other things that he kind of wanted to get to immediately first.
He rejoined the World Health Organization without a functioning healthcare system there's not even a plan to put in like a functioning healthcare system. They're like, we're going to join the World Health Organization again because Donald Trump really messed us up there.
Like, I can't remember the exact list, but a lot of them was just sort of all things that are kind of like in a pandemic are kind of like redundant. Like, I mean, joining up to the World Health Organization thing again is like great, but like, what is that actually gonna do for you if you don't have, as you said, like a functioning medical system or whatever, or even just something that's nationwide that is like...
Well, they don't have a plan for the climate, that's for sure.
It's all just sort of signaling and posturing. It's not really rooted in anything that's going to be beneficial or that's actually going to tackle any of these issues. It's more just sort of a due diligence and to sort of differentiate themselves from the Trump administration, even though it's obvious that they're not going to be like his whole promise was nothing fundamental is going to change. That was like the whole sort of thing that he rode on. He rode
in on that horse. Well, speaking of signifiers, we have got this kind of astounding like thing to have a look at here. It's the poem, the inaugural poem, which was this big deal for the inauguration. They do one of these every single inauguration, and look, just watch.
Oh God.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. in the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is.
Oh God. Oh God.
You
Oh
see why I wanted to
God.
talk about this.
So they did like the whole cafe, like spoken word, fucking bullshit. Like this is the worst signaling I've seen in a really long time, to just get like a woman of color to be there being like, it's not what just is. It's just is.
Well, yeah, and they grabbed somebody off the bench too. Like they can't grab Maya Angelou anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God. Are you really going to make me watch this whole thing? I purposefully avoided it, but I guess I have to.
Oh yeah.
Because this is what you guys pay me.
Everybody's going to hate me by the end of this.
This is what you guys pay us to do, I guess.
And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished.
Look how they keep cutting to black people. They keep cutting specifically to like fucking women of color. This is just, I feel like this stuff makes me just want to like rage quit everything and just like stop. Like, it's just terrible.
I'm really bothered by the whole unfinished nation stuff. Like, why is it that there's so much coming out of this goddamn like incoming democratic regime that is like Columbia from BioShock Infinite-esque like propaganda sounding stuff? Like, it sounds like they know they're the bad guys. Like, it's so weird.
It's fine so long as you can like woke wash it and cut to a bunch of black women while you like do your fucking obfuscation. Black female identity has now firmly become cemented as a thing that's sort of used to like as a moral cover and to like justify like power. Like anytime they want to fucking they'll use a black woman like Kamala Harris or like all of this shit. Like this is their fucking go-to thing. And the fact that this is like the popular image of like black woman power, it just makes me like really uncomfortable and gross.
We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president only to find herself reciting for one.
Oh God.
Like that is exactly what you were just talking about, by the way. Like, only to find herself reciting for, like, that is resignation. That's not like being president. It's under the like you're the underling. She's basically also kind of admitting to doing the labor of cleaning up for these folks. Like, I don't get it. I don't.
But that's what black women have. The image of black womanhood is like, we're the mammies of the establishment. We're the ones who are sort of there to do the dirty work of cleaning up their excesses and providing a fucking moral cover for them. That's what you're useful for as a black woman who's public in any kind of way. And that makes me despair. If you're not doing that, then you're a fucking evil witch that needs to be fucking, you know, pushed aside and maligned and
banished.
Marginalized. You need to be banished into the basket of deplorables. But if you're going to do this fucking bullshit, this dehumanizing, disgusting fucking bullshit, then we'll give you all the accolades and we'll fucking...
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. She is 22. She is a poet, which is not an easy thing to become famous at. But now the entire country knows her name. Am I mistaken?
It's disgusting. Like, the reason why I can't watch this is because this shit makes me feel like racial dysphoria. Almost like it makes me want to jump out of my fucking body and not be who I am anymore. And it shouldn't make me feel that way, but it does. It's disgusting.
And it's like, I don't know if I'm just so pessimistic and cynical that all of her optimism, even if you just stripped it of all of it, of the words of what she's saying, just the vibe of the optimism right now, I'm just like, where are you getting this from? Like, like, what energy are you tapping into to really harness all? Because it seems legitimate.
It's forced.
It's just, I can't quite fully like comprehend that at this time. Again, maybe I'm just a cynical fucking shitbag at this point, but I can't see how you're feeling optimistic about right now.
I entirely agree with you. Like, we're supposed to see this stuff and we're supposed to go, oh, how nice. The youth of America showing us the way. Oh my God, how good. How my warm, fuzzy feelings, they're bubbling up and they're making me feel human again after this horrible year. And they want you to remove like all historical context. They want you to remove all like manner of importance as to like for instance, we've just elected some fucking guy that wrote the 1994 crime bill that ushered in mass incarceration, for instance. They want us to forget that shit and go, oh, this young little skinny black woman who has a single mother, I'm so glad that she got to stand up in front of all these people and give me a smile.
It's false. It's forced fun. And it's religious sanctimony, basically, you know? It's the cult of social justice. It's piety. And it's them, you know, using this moment as an excuse to be sanctimonious in order to obscure the war criminals, the crime bill fucking authors, the prosecutors, like all of the people who are sort of responsible for making the lives of quote unquote single black mothers and their skinny black children fucking shit and unbearable. And it's just so frustrating to see this sort of false, cynical use of like hope and sort of the language of hope. It pushes you further down like into despair and sort of embeds that despair as like a truth that we all just have to bear, something that we can't get past because all of our attempts to get past that despair become fucking commodified and like regurgitated to us by fucking ghouls. It's horrible.
And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man.
It's a lot of that's some pretty serious alliteration. Like, what a poet. What a poet.
And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none.
Oh my God, shut the fuck up, okay? Like, stop. How are you going to be talking about laying down your arms when armed fucking military fucking police was just storming around DC and posing with Lady Gaga?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, Lady Gaga is somewhere within like 100 feet posing with the arms.
Like, the bad ones have put the guns down. The good ones, now the liberal government, have got the guns. So everyone's
That's
safe.
it right there. You fucking nailed it. That is it.
Come on. And don't you find it weird how like there's all this like call for unity? Like now Biden's won. There was never this call for unity, even though like the last election was the most divisive, or I hate that fucking word and that fucking phrase, but like that's just the fucking truth of it. Like people were fucking crazy in the last election, but you didn't hear everyone afterwards like, oh well, he's won now, let's get behind him and unify the country after it because it's over now. It's like they're trying to do this exact thing. It's like, do you think anyone's buying that? Like,
no.
Is anyone that you've like sold that line to gone, oh yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Like this wasn't, you know, I don't feel I have any strong feelings about this election, and I absolutely agree. We should unify behind Joe Biden
and his guns.
I think you really picked out an important point there. Like it's the difference between systemic analysis and like the image of systemic analysis. Like you have all these people who they think that because individuals occupy positions of power, that means they understand the problems of the system, and they think that you just need to replace those people with good people. And in the case of the military, like the military just has to be serving the good people, and that means the military is good, and the system is good if it's serving the good people. But that's not it at all.
No.
The problem is not that we need to find the right people to occupy the military. The problem's the military. And if you're saying lay down your arms, well, you've got all these enforcers around you, you're kind of like, I hate to break it to you, but are we the baddies.gif? Like, you are the authoritarians here.
Yeah. It's unjustifiable, but it's ideologically sort of hegemonic at this point.
This next line, we seek harm to none and harmony for all. Line underneath, by spreading democracy throughout the Middle East.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. You fucking nailed it. That's exactly it.
Oh God. Oh dear.
We
Continue.
seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true.
Okay, the globe is not going to say that we went around and made unity and harmony for all. That is not what the globe is going to say if you ask the fucking globe. I'm just going to say that.
Oh my God, this is dystopian.
That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division.
That's
fuck off.
That's
Fuck
not
off.
true, because that's all they
Fuck
fucking
off.
do.
That's all they do.
Fucking do.
This is such bullshit. Like, it's such fucking bullshit. Like, and the fact that I have to sit here and listen to this fucking slam poetry, like, it's so fucking disgusting to me. And like, I don't get like. What world are we living in? Like my brain is constantly like being fucking torn asunder by just the barrage of fucking bullshit. And they think we're stupid. They think that we're actually they think that the population is dumb. They think that we're so
We'll
dumb.
never sow division. We will just purposefully snuff it out and crush it at any given fucking moment, as you saw back with Bernie Sanders and any other future fucking progressive or anyone that wants to try and take it away from actual capital interests and to working class people. They will be snuffed out and demolished by Judge Harris.
Once people start to understand that the true division is class division, and there's just a tiny amount of people that are actually the problem, and that it'd be super easy to actually handle that problem if we all banded together against them, that's when they start doing all this fractalizing with fucking identity and all this shit. Like, you don't have the same interests as that person because that person looks different, or they fuck different, or they think that their gender is different. So, you know what? Those people, you know, you have nothing in common with them. And ideologically speaking, you need to have some kind of a problem with them. And you know what? With other people who like tell you otherwise, like, because it is important that you all hate each other instead of unite against us.
Mm-hmm.
Does that not sound like traditionally like they're right? Like the thing that like everybody is like, oh, this is the scariest thing in the world. Doesn't that sound like that to you?
But that's the thing. When they talk about we'll never again sow division, what they are talking about is sort of obfuscating the actual clear division, which is class division.
Exactly.
And any sort of dissent is now going, because that's the whole sort of trajectory that we're going down, is that all forms of dissent now must be rooted in bigotry. And all dissenters are sowing division, what they deem as division.
And
misinformation. And misinformation and disinformation. Ooh, spooky, spooky.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, it's just,
You mean you don't support the first black female VP ever of the United States, Angie? How unfucking woke of you. You just got put on notice.
How divisive of me.
Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid.
Now they're doing Jesus stuff.
If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That
was it. What bridge? Wait, what? It won't lie in the blade. While you have like literally DC, like I've never seen DC more fucking heavily fucking armed, and like, what are they talking about? What are they talking about?
And what bridges are they referring to?
There's no power in violence. Why, there's nothing but peace. Look around. Look around at all of the guns. The guns keep the peace, and there is nothing but peace here. For fuck's sake! For fuck's sake, it's all peace! Look around! Look around, it's peace, motherfuckers!
This is like some fucking serious, like, Hunger Games shit right now. Like, it's some serious fucking Hunger Games shit.
It is. Maybe Lady Gaga is trying to give us a warning.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Maybe she is actually terrified of what is going on. They got to her or some
Who
shit.
knows? Or maybe that they're just trying to tell us, like, in no uncertain terms, what it is that they're trying to do.
No
like,
joke. It's a shitting in our mouths moment.
It is. It is a shitting in our mouths moment, massively.
What bridges are they referring to, though? They're the bridges that they built with the working class by providing them the things that they need during a pandemic.
No, it's a new brand of a machine gun. It's called a Bridges AK-47. I don't know.
Bridges, they would be the only kind of bridges America built. That's for goddamn fucking sure.
How much longer is this fucking thing?
We're halfway through.
Oh,
is the
no.
promise to glade the hill we climb if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share
I'm
it.
sorry, but the rhyming makes it so insufferable.
Like, it's like stupid, like kindergarten rhyming.
It's like
Like they think
Dr.
we're like
Seuss.
fucking, they think we're idiots. They think we're fucking idiots. And this whole notion of, oh, it's the past that we step into and like how we repair it. Like, you have elected a fucking crime bill author. You elected a fucking prosecutor. Like, what? You're not thinking about, it's nothing to do with repairing the past. It's everything to do with sort of papering over it with woke signifiers.
Just pretending that it didn't happen. Like, and that Joe Biden is fucking woke and like knows what the fuck he's talking about at all times during the course of a single day.
It's like that fucking Shonda Rhimes show, Birdington or whatever the fuck.
Oh, Bridgerton.
Bridgerton.
Yeah,
Bridgerton.
yes.
This is literally it. That's literally what this is. It's Bridgerton.
21st century Bridgerton.
Yeah.
So what we got to do is we got to take on the aesthetic of a previous time period. But here's the thing. We're going to erase all of the racism. We're going to erase all of the wealth inequality. Well, actually, no, we're not. Just the racism. And we're going to proportionally represent all of the races in the ruling class, and that's gonna be like some woke ass shit, right, guys?
Yes.
Yes, queen.
Continue this stupid shit.
That would shatter our nation rather than share it. Would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy.
I want to know what they mean by delaying democracy in context with, you know, the entire history of the United States, how democracy has become less and less over the course of the time rather than
well,
more
not
and
just
more.
that, like the way that they've also affected democracy in other nations as well. It's so fucking
What are you talking
hypocritical.
about? They brought democracy to so many
It's
nations.
so fucking hypocritical. Like, this is just some sanctimonious fucking bullshit right here.
Well, you know, ask Salvador Allende, the democratically elected president of Chile in 1970, what the United States does about democracy.
Not just that, like it's like the magical Negro trope, like the idea that Black Americans are sort of the spiritual oasis of America, and like the whole like sort of liberation theology, Martin Luther King thing, and they have all these like sanctimonious like Negroes sitting around like, you better testify, while like Joe Biden does his like fake like woke like church dance in the corner. Like, it's too much for me. It's too much for me at the moment, and it makes me despair for the future of Black, not just Black Americans, but like Black people globally. Like, this is what we're now useful for. This is what we've become.
Yeah.
And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed.
By the way, they're attempting to say right now that thing that happened a couple of weeks ago, you know, the quote unquote coup, they're trying to act as though like that was a serious threat at the moment.
Like that was what was trying to delay democracy, was like all these streamers that went in with Viking helmets. That was trying to delay democracy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh God. Oh dear.
It can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope.
The kids were put in cages by Obama, and he hasn't done anything about it.
No.
Offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free.
To act like the literal center of the empire is benevolent but bold, fierce, and free is just like...
Dude, I can't watch any more of this.
We
Please
can
don't
stop.
make me watch any more of
It's
this.
pretty fucking amazing, isn't it?
I can't. It's a bunch of empty ass platitudes and
If
a bunch of like...
If
like,
that.
It's meaningless. It's absolutely fucking meaningless, like slam poetry bullshit. And I don't see how anyone could watch that and feel inspired by it and not feel
go
like
on
fucking...
Facebook. I don't understand how, but they are.
Oh God. It's just painful, and it just the way that also the way that Black women's identity and sort of the spiritual nature of previous Black, sort of rebellions against political hegemony has now become recuperated into a thing that justifies and creates a moral cover for the establishment. That's something that hurts deeper than anything. That's something that hurts deeper than anything that could ever hurt the cause of Black liberation, or just being a Black person like existing in society, or a Black person existing in the fucking public domain. Like, it's fucking atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. So I think that's more than enough of that.
More than enough of that. That's just put me in such a fucking bad place. But speaking of bad places, the fucking liberal establishment, the liberal media establishment has now come up with a new concept. There's been a new article written by the Washington Post. And it says, to understand Trump's support, we must think in terms of multiracial whiteness. And I read the whole article, and it was basically this sort of pseudo-academic postulation about the idea of whiteness as a category becoming expanded to include all those who don't adhere to liberal norms, which is the obvious end game of liberal identity politics. Like, people were sort of surprised by the naked contempt of this statement, but I wasn't. This is the end goal of neoliberal identity politics. Like, whiteness is a political category. Blackness is an amenable political category as well. And blackness is associated with like morality, and whiteness is associated with it. It's like a woke essentialism, if you know what I mean, like assigning sort of morality or immorality to generally arbitrary traits. Like, the reason why Trump has Black supporters or supporters who are minorities is because race is fucking arbitrary, you idiots. Like,
well, it's just taking a benign statement to its absolute extreme conclusion. I mean, Biden did say, you're not Black if you don't vote for him. So that's kind of exactly what he's describing here, right?
That completely conforms to it, doesn't it? That is fucking amazing. And like, you're not Black if you don't vote for me. Like, they're like, that is the law of the land.
Yep. We're transracial kings.
What we just didn't realize is that when he said, you're Black if you vote for me, is that he meant all the white people as well. Like,
that's pretty much it, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. It's like blackness is now the political category for all of the... It's ironic seeing as the people who put Biden in power were largely affluent whites from the suburbs. That was like a huge constituency of people. The constituency of the Democratic Party is becoming more and more affluent and more white as well. And also more and more male too, according to the data that was taken in this election. So I guess all those people are Black now too. And blackness and that whole thing, that whole miasma or egregore is now a political category that you can opt in and out. It's like racial dolajol, it's like racial dolajol. I can never pronounce racial dolajol. It's like racial dolajol logic, basically, where these categories are just purely political categories, and they're essentialized as well because these categories have moral standards associated to them, and all the people who are in the basket of deplorables are white people, including me, and all the people who are good boys and good girls are fucking Black people. Like, Joe Biden is our first transracial president as well. Like he's the fucking transracial king.
No, it was actually Bill Clinton who was the first black president.
Yeah.
according
Oh
to-
wow, was he?
Don't you remember that? Don't you remember them saying? No, that was the thing that they actually said. They called Bill Clinton the first black president. And it's
But that's how
actually,
they
I think,
view
a
it.
fairly similar dynamic to this.
So he was the first transracial king, and fucking Biden is the second transracial king.
All the
Yeah.
billionaires and corporations that donated to Biden are also now black, and
Yeah.
woke as hell, right? Like Fargo, Wells Fargo, Bank of America.
If you could have told the people like measuring skulls and shit and writing it down in books and be like, this will justify slavery for us, like this is where it was going to go, they would just be like, holy shit, that is great.
Yeah, they would be like, that's so fucking genius. They would fucking think it was complete and utter genius. But yeah, I was disturbed by this, but not surprised, because one thing I do get called a lot is white. Even though I'm like a Nigerian, like fucking woman, I get called a white man. It's not just with race, it's also with gender as well. Because
Well, yeah, I mean, that happens a ton. Like whenever there's socialists of anything that is perceived as socialist, like the libs will call that the women or the trans women for that matter, but people of different races, ethnicities, etc. They'll just call them cis white men.
Yeah, they'll call them cis white men. And that's because whiteness and maleness are now, because they love their like woke essentialism, that's associated with badness and being a deplorable. Whereas blackness and all other forms of identity that are not white male are associated with virtue and goodness. And I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this shit for years, and it's now fucking proving itself to be true, that the whole point of sort of codifying these identities and sort of giving people leeway to take away people's identity who they disagree with and then bestow that identity upon the people who are doing the work of the establishment. That's a way of sort of codifying these sorts of essentialist norms. And I've been saying it for fucking years, and everyone calls me crazy and calls me a fucking bitch and calls me this and that, but it's happening like in front of our very eyes. Even the fucking bullshit inauguration thing we just watched was them basically doing a weird form of blackface over the establishment. And it's been happening for years. Obama was also that kind of fucking front, that veneer of virtuousness by proxy of identity and a so-called historical struggle in a way that sort of benefits the establishment.
What if you are just like a white cis man? Like if it was like if I'm saying something that's politically white, and then you're just a cis, and you're like, well, yeah,
Well,
like so what?
True.
What's the
True.
That's the thing is if you're a cis white man who's not in alignment with this shit, then of course you're not, because that's you living out your essentialized nature, Jake. That's you
just being my colonizer self.
Yeah, you just being your fucking settler, colonizer, piece of shit, white fucking bitch ass self. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. But then for me, I'm just not black. Like I'm transracial basically. I'm a transracial white man in a black woman's body.
A deplorable.
I'm a deplorable. I'm hiding in plain sight.
That's the real identity.
This would upset Michael Jackson so much if he was still alive, because I feel like, he wasn't like a Republican, I don't imagine. But then if he's like on the liberal side, that means he would be black again. It's just going to confuse. Like, I mean, I know that's a pretty unique case, but I don't know if there's other people like that out there. But you can't just be slapping your this and that on people when they're trying to, so hard to identify with something else. Maybe it's
Biden
pretty
was
triggering.
like, you're not black if you don't vote for me. He's like, oh, really?
Oh, geez, that's all it took. Oh,
Oh my God! Make America great again, everybody.
oh my God, we were watching like a lot of old South Park recently, and we were watching the episode where it was like with Michael Jackson, whatever, one of the episodes of them, and we were just making the comment that he sounds an awful lot like online leftists.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
those people are just mean and they have doo-doo in their souls. Like, that's what they think about anybody that doesn't align with everything that they think, and it's just like,
Even though
okay,
they're like weird and like, you know,
and want to fuck dead bodies of their cousins.
and all kinds of things, and try to justify, you know, it's natural to sleep with young boys in your bed. You're just ignorant. Like literally.
if you don't understand necrophilia, you're just ignorant.
The age of consent is way too high.
16-year-olds know what's going on. You're just ignorant.
Yeah. Oh dear. No. Yeah. This stuff is really disturbing to me. Because if you actually are just a black woman, if you're just a black, or not just a black, like if you're just a black person like existing, this stuff is really, really fucking dystopian. And it's also kind of hinged upon the idea that like we are not allowed to think for ourselves. We're not allowed to have our own opinions, and we're not allowed to align with, because your political identity has to align with whatever society puts upon you that's like essentialized within whatever identity category that you're in, which is why it's really fucking fascinating. Like when Kanye West came out in support of Trump, there was this huge uproar, this massive, like over the top. It was really over the top, the uproar. And I'm not somebody who necessarily agrees with Kanye. I think he's sort of a useful idiot in that regard. But the idea that he's not allowed to have his own political identity and opinions, regardless of whether you think that they're right or not, because he's a black man and therefore should believe this or should believe X. Like, let him figure shit out for himself. Like, he's a person. And he's a rich person at that. He's somebody who has fucking access to a lot of fucking resources, which is also obscured. The class dimension of this shit is also deeply obscured. Like, he's a fucking rich man. It doesn't matter that he's a fucking black man. He's a fucking rich ass man. And his plight, and also his fucking affinity is obviously going to be more for Trump. Like, why do you think all the rappers are like palling around with Trump and like he's pardoning them and shit like that? Like, the idea that these identity categories are so essential to the point that they transcend class, they transcend political affiliation. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, Trump's also just a gangster, so he's probably like referenced in so many hip hop tracks.
I'm glad you said it, because I was thinking it.
I'm not like, you know, super into rap music, especially modern rap music. But I imagine, you know, he's a fucking player, dude. He's the biggest scammer. He's the biggest scammer on the whole fucking planet, and that is so integral.
Way back in the 1990s, rap music was about something that, you know, mattered in the world. That was running a hustle of some kind. Like, the thing where's that music now?
And also, I think that astrology is more of a reason to essentialize people, because Trump and Kanye are both Geminis. So obviously they saw the twin nature of their natures in each other reflected back at each other, and they had a moment of love with each other. It's a typical Gemini behavior. And they're like archetypal Geminis when they go wrong. But I mean, moving away from the whole like racial sort of essentialism that liberals are trying to use, there's the thing that worries me the most is there's no way to really combat that. Like, when people say to me, "You're not black," even though I'm very fucking obviously black, like, how can you talk to someone who doesn't live in the same fucking reality as you? And like, how can you deal with something like that? For the most part, I just sort of ignore it, because like that's all I really feel that I can do. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt, and it doesn't sort of diminish me, and it also brings me into sort of visceral awareness of the fact that people don't really, especially the ones who claim to, people don't really view black people or a lot of other minorities as fully fleshed out human beings with like agency and autonomy.
Well, no, it's part of the whole white fragility bullshit, and the fact that they sort of permanently racialize and make it so that you have to view every person through the lens of like the historical struggle that the entire race. Because the idea is that you've been disadvantaged in some way from attaining any of this stuff, and because you're a member of that identity, you will have never ever actually been exposed to some kind of like thing that brings you the entire story. I got like it is far like there's a paternalism that's inherent in that sort of massive. And here's the thing: it is very important to understand historical struggle. It's very important because you can't do historical materialism without history. However, when you permanently racialize people and kind of put them into a category of thought based on what you think they're capable of, because of like the like history of whatever. I want to leave that vague because this doesn't just happen to black people, obviously. But I mean, I feel like it's just paternalism.
It is.
It's just like, you're disadvantaged. You don't understand this stuff. So you know what? Let us handle it. We'll be black for a while. You sit this one out,
It's fucking stupid because at the same time, it's also an easy way for them to explain away the cognitive dissident of the amount of minority support that Trump got this election round. Because their entire narrative is sort of spun around the idea that black people are these sort of benevolent, mystical beings that are beyond reproach, and they're the favorite, they're the little sort of favorite, not just black people, minorities in general. I mean, Trump's LGBT support even rose in this election, and all of those different things. And it's sort of a way for these protected identity categories have a certain holiness to them, and they have a certain sheen to them that they don't want tainted. So it's easier to sort of make everyone transracial than it is to actually grapple with the fucking, lack of support for their agenda.
Well, I think the scientific discovery that we have here is this new form of transracialism, because transracialism used to just be a form of rhetoric to tell trans people that they don't exist. But now, what would you call this exactly? Like, if you had to boil it down, what is transracialism here?
Mental gymnastics.
Well, here's the thing. The whole argument happened. Yeah, I agree. The whole argument happened along with Rachel Dolezal when she sort of emerged onto the media scene. And it was sort of a thing that was buzzing around the media. And of course, it was vehemently rejected. Like the notion of transracialism was sort of vehemently rejected and ridiculed by the masses of black people. But then there were certain black academics and media figures who were sort of attempting to codify it and were incredibly sort of friendly towards Dolezal and empathetic towards her plight. And they were sort of saying, well, race is just sort of a social construct anyway, so why can't people just identify in and out of it? That was the sort of rationale that was being used and that was the rationale that Rachel Dolezal used to justify her idea of herself as a black woman. And right now you're seeing that same logic being reified in order to make blackness a political category. So it has nothing to do with, the traditional kind of essentialism of like black people being inferior. It also has nothing to do with like the idea of race as a social construct. It's more trying to create a political category of blackness that is associated with all of the benevolence of social justice, so that, and also, kick the black people or minorities or whatever the fuck who don't align with that ethos into oblivion, basically. Kick them into oblivion, remove their historical experiences from them, remove the historical materialist through line, and make it purely about, whether or not you support the neoliberal hegemony, if that makes any sense. Because I'm still sort of chewing it over in my head, for real.
For me, this really sounds like it's a mechanism of enforcement from what it sounds like to me, as opposed to a sort of rhetorical trick that somebody might do to try to excuse themselves out of something. It seems like this is a top-down thing as opposed to...
But don't forget, Rachel Dolezal was a fucking academic. She's not just some woman off the street. Like, didn't she teach at Howard University and was like a sitting member of like the fucking NAACP? She was part of that sort of liberal establishment milieu. And she was serious, like even though it sort of became this pop cultural joke. She, in and of herself, was incredibly serious about trying to codify the concept of transracialism. And also she had the backing of quite a few black academics and media figures as well.
No, so
it's top down.
I just can't take her seriously since seeing her with Kraft Punk on Eric Andre.
Oh, yeah. But that's because she'll take any media shit that she's offered. Like, really, that's the type of,
It's because they fucked her so bad, she's like poor.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sucks. It actually sucks, and I do actually feel bad for her. But like, it is also nonsense.
Here's the thing, though. It's not like a thing where, it's like political blackness and political whiteness don't have anything to do with the color of your skin in this new paradigm. Political whiteness is about being a deplorable.
Mhm.
And political blackness is about following the party line, basically. And it's sort of even though it's not like obvious in the racial dollar sense, it's sort of this unsaid, under the radar secret that if you're espousing the correct politics and you're sort of espousing that you're an ally of the correct things, you are sort of under the umbrella of political blackness. And if you're not doing those things, then you're kicked out of that umbrella. So that's the reason why you'll have white fucking, sometimes even like white males or who are in that sort of political black milieu, saying the most heinous shit, doing the most heinous shit, and getting away scot-free with it because, they're espousing the right things, they're selling the right party lines, therefore they're, covered and they're protected under the umbrella. But if you're a minority and you don't do those things, once you're kicked out of the umbrella of political blackness, anything that happens to you is justified. Anything that's said to you is justified. And it works this way for gender. It works this way for all kinds of different things. Like Azealia Banks, who's like a fucking black bisexual woman who was fucking born. She was like born and raised in like a very poor part of New York. Russell Crowe can spit on her and assault her, which is what happened. He spat on her and he assaulted her. And when she spoke up about that incident, people were telling her that she deserves it and that she's a fucking, all kinds of shit, like all kinds of crazy shit, because she's no longer under the umbrella of political blackness because she doesn't play ball with those expectations. Once
she doesn't play any kind of ball with.
No, she doesn't play. No, she doesn't.
She is not. Once you, like, it's just all over the place with her, it's fascinating to be fair.
Once you've sinned which is what I'm trying to illustrate. You're as a black person, you are no longer under the fucking umbrella of political blackness. You're kicked out into the basket of deplorables. But if you're a white man under the umbrella of fucking political blackness or wokeness, quote unquote, then anything goes. You're protected. Like no one's going to bother you.
Well, it's not even, I would say, about politics. I would say it's about teams, because you could go by policy, whatever, like, are you anti-war? Do you want, medical treatment for everybody? All of these sorts of things that, quote unquote, most liberals or whatever would agree with. And then you go, but I think the Democratic Party are bankrolled and don't have the interests of working people. So, I have problems with that. That makes you politically white.
That's it. You're 100% right.
So it's not really politics. It's just teams. It's purely, because if you're not supporting this other team wholeheartedly %, then you're not damage reduction and you're causing division and you're a fucking enemy and you're politically white.
Because you're pointing out where the power is, as opposed to just throwing up signifiers about having the right opinion.
But that's what we just saw with this whole fucking inaugural poet laureate speech. That is political blackness in action. And everybody who is under the umbrella of that political blackness, the war criminals, the fucking crime bill authors, the prosecutors, they are considered they've been sanctified, they've been anointed by this sort of political blackness sort of as the image of purity and moral piety. And if you're saying no to that, if you're saying this is dystopian, if you're saying this is fucking bullshit, then no, it doesn't matter who you are, you're yeeted into the category of political whiteness. And I don't even want to use those terms because I hate the idea that it fucking assigns morality to arbitrary characteristics, which is the whole point of racism. And it's disgusting.
Well, and also by those metrics, George Bush and McCain are politically black because they're anti-Trump. So go figure.
Well, Trump was the big signifier, to be clear. Like the whole
Joe Biden,
the healthcare, the all of the stuff that you mentioned really doesn't matter. It's really just Trump if you're pro or against.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Joe Biden is so politically black that he can strip other black people of their blackness. That's how fucking politically black Joe Biden is. And the fact that he's surrounded himself with this sort of milieu of blackness, the fact that it's so cynical. And the fact that these identity categories, these sort of ascriptive categories, have now been sort of reified as political signifiers in a way that sort of benefits the ruling class. That's something we should all be worried about, especially if you're any sort of minority. That's not something that you should accept or see as something that sort of reflects your values, because it's trying to undermine your values. It's not trying to fucking...
As soon as you start pressing up against power, like, that's it. You're done.
Yep.
You're not black, Jack.
Nope. And that's the thing is, like, this is a trend that's been happening first with Obama, then with Dolezal, then with white fragility, then with Joe Biden's "you're not black." That there are so many different fucking moments that I can point to culturally that sort of led us to this trajectory we're at. And I would say resist it. I am a black woman and I also don't agree with you. And you're going to have to fucking live with that. There's nothing that you can do about that, because at the end of the day, reality is fucking prime. You can go around telling me that I'm not black. You can go around screaming that, like, my blackness has been taken away and I'm politically white. But people aren't stupid, and your stupid, like, mental gymnastics is not going to seek primacy over fucking reality at the end of the day. No matter how much Orwellian you speak, no matter how much you sort of try to spit in the face of people's cognitive abilities to differentiate reality from, your weird academic fiction, it's never going to work. And it's a form of dehumanization, but it's like a woke form of dehumanization.
Yeah.
And it's something that we really, really have to continue to kick against.
Well, now that all of the Afro-pessimism people hate us,
should we do a Patreon question, followed by an email, maybe?
Yes. Let's do our very first parasocial Patreon.
Yes, we had a message from our parasocial pal Lauren.
It's Yanni. It's Yanni.
Thank you so much, Lauren, first of all, for becoming a parasocial Patreon. It means a lot to us that you're helping us towards our goal of becoming more established as a podcast, getting more equipment, including a new microphone, because as you can see, Jake and I are sharing. So yeah, thank you very much for your pledge. We really appreciate it.
But her question was, how did you three meet and decide to start the show? I find it so hard to find like-minded friends here and in the US that share the same values.
Well,
I guess
we're not from the same country.
No,
part of
no, it's part of it. But also it was because I started making videos for Angie Speaks, and then Peter was sharing my videos when I started making them, which was very kind of him. And then we connected in the DMs and became friends and started to produce content together. And then we were like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do a podcast? And then me and Peter were like, yeah, sure. Who should we do it with though? And then we just sort of brought the people in our households in on the game. And that was the story of Low Society there. It sort of started with Peter and I, getting our wanting a more of a frequent output, because the type of videos that we make are very difficult and
they're very in depth. They're difficult to do.
They're not.
They're often very research based.
Yeah, it's not stuff.
None of that for Low Society. We just come.
We just come in here and chat absolute bollocks. But yeah, he because our video format is like quite arduous to produce and laborious, and we can't really produce content as frequently as we can in this format. We decided that we were going to do a podcast so that we could have bi-weekly to weekly episodes, and to just kind of continue to cultivate an audience of people who are also like-minded people like you. So since you're having trouble finding like-minded people, I'm glad that you found us at the very least.
Well, you're a parasocial patron too, so you're in the Discord. Try to talk to those people, because in my experience, the people in the Discord are very along the same.
All super chill, and we got a great little community going on there. So definitely come and join us in there. To give a more broad kind of macro answer to that question, I've obviously met Peter through creative endeavors that I do with Angie. I met Angie through creative endeavors that I did in my university days. And so most of the people I meet in my life tend to be, that stick at least, tend to be through shared creative endeavors,
yeah,
or drugs. And either buying drugs from them, buying drugs from me sometimes.
Oh my God, shit.
Just various things. So like that's how you build connections with people. It's cheeky things that happen, experiences, stories, and a lot of that always comes from working together on like something cool, or going and taking some fucking mushrooms and having a fucking time. So that's how you make friends.
Well, thank you very much, Lauren, as our very first Parasocial Patreon. In our next episode, we'll have more Parasocial Patreon stuff to read. And if you want to become a Patreon or a Parasocial Patreon, be sure to check out our Low Society Patreon page.
Okay, so we got a question here from Philip. I'm not going to say your last name because I need to stop doing that to like dox people. We got a question here from Philip. Do you ever feel that your lens of understanding people has been corrupted by the interface of your mediums? How do you taper your input from these mediums? Do you think it's worth identifying sampling strategies that deviate from your direct followers or participants? Do you think it's possible for you to have a good understanding of how society views these topics and events? Philip, so I guess that kind of is sort of going around like the sort of echo chamber like idea. And if you're sort of, you're always surrounded by people making the similar content to you or similar, values of you or whatever, and you're interacting all the time with your followers who are, repeating the things maybe you say to, or whatever back at you and or other people within your remit and stuff, then how do you stay kind of neutral in that situation? But
well, I would say there's more than that to even worry about. Like the mediating platforms themselves create a lot of hazards in terms of that. But like, as far as how I've been able to, I think, remain pretty neutral is the fact that I don't know why, but I'm just entirely unafraid of saying things that like people who like I consider like quote unquote important or cool or whatever don't like. And it turns out that none of these other people are like that, and they just like basically disown you immediately. And I don't have to worry about the echo chamber thing.
No, neither do I. And that's the thing is, people ask us this question a lot, but like we have torched our careers in favor of being able to say what we want and what we feel, and not worrying about sort of tailoring our message to suit anybody other than what we feel like in the moment and those who are sort of along for the ride. That's kind of been
our lived experience out there for real. For real. Yeah, that's sort of the trajectory that we've been on, and it kind of frustrates me when we get questions like this of, what if you're creating an echo chamber? It's like, what echo chamber? Like, fucking people who are bigger than us in the media are constantly fucking canceling us because we're saying things that they don't like. Audience members rage quit, especially the ones who sort of see this more as like a consumer demographic war thing, and that we're their like parasocial mummies and daddies and shit. They rage quit all the time. Like, it's not something that we're interested in doing. And also, one of the things that I'm interested in doing as well is talking to people who don't already agree, which is what we're working on for this year on the podcast, is to get on people, media figures. Which is actually harder than you might think.
It's like, a lot harder
in previous months.
But it's something that we're very interested in doing, is having conversations with people who don't agree with us as well. And I'm more interested in things that are about sort of pushing boundaries in order to excavate subversive knowledge than I am in catering to some consumer demographic or media milieu of like people who you're sort of trying to signal to in order to social climb. And it's not an ethos.
Is it possible that you can end up creating an echo chamber for yourself? Of course it is.
Of course it is.
But like, I mean, if you just say like your experience and what you think, like ultimately you're going to push up against that.
And also, it's not, the model that we have isn't necessarily great for establishing yourself as a media figure, but it's the one that works for us, and it's the one that also feels the most authentic and comfortable. And even though it's going to mean slow growth, it means like being able to sleep at night and like feel good about the work that you're putting out into the world. So I hope that answers your question. Philip, was it Philip? Yeah, Philip.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of Low Society. We appreciate every single last one of you guys. Thank you for the boost to our Patreon that's happened.
Yeah,
like
a big boost over the
yeah,
last
this stuff
week or
really,
so.
really helps. Like it really, really helps us. We have a lot of exciting exclusive content also planned for Patreons as well in the coming weeks, and some more exciting guests to come as well. So stay tuned for that. We love you guys. Goodbye.
Bye.
Peace out.